war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. The man is not free unless government is limited. An informed patriotism is what we want. But still watch closely. And don't be afraid to see what you see.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report.
Well, hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, the best news show on the web. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host Scott Ferrarello is here with me, too. And we're happy you tuned in. Thank you. Today's Monday, March 18th, 2015, and we're broadcasting live from the studios at PRN Radio Network. That's the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hello, Watchmen. 714-888-7404 is our call-in number, but hold off on that for a few minutes. We have a lot to get to. But our chat rooms at both Blog Talk Radio and right here at PRN are open for you. Lynn, Famous Anna, and AstroTurf are manning the chats, putting all the links to our sources, documents, reports in there, so you have them at your convenience. And thank you, ladies, for that sweet courtesy. Our crew's the most awesome group of researchers, analysts, and journals I've ever met. And thank you. Most of all, they're my friends. You may run into some of our other colleagues in the chats, too, so please get to know each other. We have a great show lined up for you today. Plus, we have an amazing guest coming on in a little while. We have blogger, author, journalist, analyst, Tori Nissen. Now, you folks will all know her as Snoop Chick. Some of you may know her by the name Marina. But it's Tori Nissen. She has some great articles that she's been publishing lately, one in particular. Anyhow, before we start the show, we first have to do a disclaimer, and that just lets everybody know that anything said on this show is solely my responsibility and not that of our sponsors and advertisers. The disclaimer goes like this, the comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of the PRN Radio Network do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else of members of the Watchmen of America program or the Patriot Resistance website, either in past, present, and even future broadcasts. All right, well, now that that's out of the way, let me open up Scott's microphone and give him a proper introduction, and then we'll start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Scott Ferrarello. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Joanne, how you doing?
Hey, my friend, how are you today?
Not too bad.
We got some news. Not too bad? How's the weather up there?
It's like a monsoon.
Ooh, yeah, it's been raining. I mean, down in Louisiana, man, they everything's just turned back into a swamp. Our poor colleagues down there, they can't even get their planting done. What they did plant has come up, so it's just floating. Hey, we have Tori Nissen on the show today.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, she's amazing. You're gonna love her. You know her. She's been on the show before. As a matter of fact, it was her show that I got my start on. She had a show called Snoop Chick, and our crew had been writing articles and research and all kinds of stuff on the Gulf oil spill, and one of them caught her attention, so she invited me on to her show. And, next thing you know, I'm her co-host, and then she had some pressing engagements that she had to take care of, so I took over the show for her, and the rest is history. But, yeah, she's going to be our guest today. She has a great article out that I wanted everybody to hear, and I invited her on, and I'm really happy she said hi. She's a busy girl. So, we got a ton of news to get to. Is there anything you want to bring up before we begin?
No, go ahead.
All righty. Well, of course, we've reached the debt ceiling. Today, the debt ceiling expired. Well, the federal government was once again forced to operate under a debt ceiling, and that's a limit that will impose real restrictions on federal spending until Congress agrees to increase the ceiling. So they put it off until next week, even voting on it or discussing it. So right now we are operating under a debt ceiling, and boy, they're all freaking out about it. It's $18.2 trillion. How much money do these folks need? And did anybody consider doing a debt reduction? Instead, it's always more. Now, McConnell and the Republicans are saying, no, we're not going to get into a big, protracted fight over this debt ceiling. We're just going to clean up a few things and put a budget together. Meanwhile, Jack Lew, the Treasury Secretary, he's telling everybody that, he's going to stop issuing new debt to fill up the Civil Service Retirement and Disability Fund and the Government Securities Investment Fund of the federal employees' retirement system. They have that thrift savings plan, and those funds are used to pay out tens of billions of dollars worth of retirement benefits to federal workers each year. They're not going to stop sending the checks. They're just not refilling the coffers right now. They will once they reach the debt ceiling. But, it means a short-term hit to a couple of pension funds. But other than that, it's, business as usual up there. And seeing that they're not going to do anything about it, they're not going to change anything. They're just going to say, yeah, okay, well, we're just going to approve it. So we're back where we started from. It doesn't really change much. I just thought I'd bring it up, though.
There's no ceiling. It's an open air cafe. When your bathroom is flooding with water, you get rid of the water. You don't raise the ceiling and move the walls out for more water.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what's happening. They've been running wide open, by the way. They didn't even have a ceiling. So it's been capped off now at 18.2. We'll see how long that lasts. But, they're already screaming, we need money for this, and they're going to go after, well, you're not going to get your Social Security checks, and the veterans aren't going to get their checks, and the federal employees aren't going to get their checks. You notice they didn't put the politicians in there. They will get their checks, and all their little pet projects and stuff, yeah, they'll all get their checks. I don't know why they never threaten those. It's always the women and children, soldiers and orphans. Those are the ones that are going to get hurt. There's so much money we spend. Not one of them said anything about, well, let's not give any money to Hezbollah this month or Al-Qaeda.
And that's just it, when you're being robbed by the most wicked, amoral, no conscience, no empathy pieces of crap, this is what you're going to get. Everybody that needs it don't get it. Everybody that don't deserve it, they get it. And the whole world's upside down.
Nobody said it. The EPA's not going to get any money. The National Education Endowment Fund, they're going to still get their money. And, it's just always, children and orphans and soldiers.
Well, just look at look what they created in the last 10 years. Obamacare, the DHS, the TSA, you get rid of those, and right away you save $5 trillion.
Right. And they're all redundant agencies anyhow.
Yeah.
We don't even need them. And of course, his new projects like taking over police departments, local police departments, they're going to get funded. So, we're just getting jerked around. You know what else he did today? The White House has exempted itself from FOIA. That's the Freedom of Information Act. They decided, well, you guys are always snooping around here looking for emails. Well, we'll tell you what. We're not going to honor FOIA requests. Now, Judicial Watch has had FOIA requests in there for some stuff for over 6 years. Instead of honoring the requests, under the current law, it's still law, but Obama decided that the White House is exempt now. The White House, this is from USA Today, the White House is removing a federal regulation that subjects its Office of Administration to the Freedom of Information Act, making official a policy under President Bush and Obama to reject all requests for records to that office. The White House said the cleanup of FOIA regulations is consistent with court rulings that hold that the office is not subject to the transparency law. The office handles, among other things, White House record-keeping duties like the archiving of emails. What a coincidence, huh? Imagine that. They are the ones in charge of archiving emails, but, you're not going to see that any time soon. And, by the way, it's Sunshine Week. So that's the administration's day that they say we're going to be completely transparent. I guess that's pretty transparent, huh? No, you can't have them. How much more?
They're about as transparent as a brick wall.
Yep, clear as mud. Yeah, that's really transparent, though. They're telling you right out to your face, no, you cannot have them. No, you will not see our emails. So what if it's
everybody gets snooped on but them? That's
right.
That's how they want it. And pretty soon, the only jobs that are going to be out there are government jobs and the lowest, crappiest, third world country manufacturing crap jobs for Walmart that you can find. It's going to be nothing else. So you either work for the government or you work like a slave or you don't work at all.
Exactly. And you will take what they assign you to take with this Common Core. They'll say, okay, you have an intellect of this, and we need some people over there, so that's what you're going to learn.
Department of Education, another worthless agency, sucking money for the last 40 years.
Yep. We don't even need these agencies. At one point maybe we did, but now they've outlived their usefulness. Each of them has become autonomous, and, they're making regulations and legislation, but they're not a legislative branch. They are under the legislative branches and under the executive branch. So I don't see where they get off making laws. The EPA is so big and powerful now that it's become a government of its own.
And that's what all these agencies eventually become. Look at the CIA. Look at everything. I mean, and that's why you're not supposed to have big government. Government is a hammer, and it sees everything else as a nail. Yeah. So the smaller the hammer, the less pounding you're going to take.
Well, especially this government, it has become never-ending, just like a money pit. Its only job is to feed itself, at the expense even of the host that's supplying it, meaning us. The Dems are mad, though. Obama's always saying about the Republicans this and the Republicans that, and all the Democrats are like, Republicans stink, and, we're on top of the world now. We're Democrats, and we have all these special treatments and stuff. Well, you know what? Since Obama's been going around Congress, maybe they forgot that there's Democrats in Congress. Democrats in the Senate, too. Well, now, Rose DeLauro, you know who she is. She's the one, actually, that Rahm Emanuel was living with when he was in D.C. He didn't even get his own apartment. He was renting a room from her and her husband. Well, this is from The Hill. House Democrats are criticizing Obama's administration for holding a classified briefing on trade with top administration officials, saying it's an attempt to push a trade program in secret. Labor Secretary Thomas Perez, you all know him. He used to work at the DOJ. He's the one that dismissed the Black Panther case and the voter interference. Well,
voter intimidation.
Voter intimidation. You're right. Well, Labor Secretary Thomas Perez and U.S. Trade Representative Michael Froman will meet with House Democrats on Wednesday in a classified briefing to discuss the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Members will be allowed to attend the briefing on the proposed trade pact with 12 Latin American and Asian countries, with one staff member who possesses an active secret level or high clearance compliant with the House security rules. Representative Rosa DeLauro, she's from Connecticut, told The Hill that the administration is being needlessly secretive. Even now, when they're finally beginning to share the details of the proposed deal with the members of Congress, they're denying us the ability to consult with our staff or discuss details of the agreement with experts, DeLauro told The Hill. Representative Lloyd Doggett, another Democrat from Texas, blasted the classified briefing. Making it classified further ensures that even if we accidentally learn something, we can't share it. What is USTR working so hard to hide? What is the specific legal basis for all this senseless secrecy, Doggett said to The Hill. Open trade should begin with open access, Doggett said. Members expected to vote on trade deals should be able to read the unredacted negotiating text. In an interview with The Hill earlier this year, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said Obama could attract a lot of Democrat votes on the trade if he handled it right, the transparent way. So it says it's not unusual for the administration to discuss trade negotiations in classified meetings. Leaks of information can give trading partners an advantage in the talks and could also tip off lobbying groups. U.S. Trade Representative spokesman Matt McAlvana told The Hill that the administration has made and continues to make classified documents available to any member of Congress who's interested in reviewing them. Now, you know that's a bunch of crap. It says, if the TPP would be as good for the American jobs as they claim, there should be nothing to hide. Well, yeah, this is all about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. So now that they've put up this fuss, they're going to let a couple of Democrats in, and they're going to tell a couple of Democrats about it. Republicans, forget it. They're not even going to let them in the room. Not by themselves, not with a staff member. They don't care. But they're going to tell a few Democrats what's going on, but they can't share that with anybody else. Are you kidding me, folks? Are we going to really do this? When's it going to end? What are we doing?
I don't know. You know, we got an illegal alien president who creates law just by uttering words. It doesn't get much worse than that. And now, you know, they can basically just say everything they're doing is under the White House umbrella of secrecy, so even the Freedom of Information Act.
Yep, you can't even get the unclassified stuff.
Just like using national security for everything they don't want to tell you.
Exactly. Well, you know, I mean, how many times are we going to put up with this? Things are getting really, really, really pathetically ugly out there.
I tell you what, before his term is over, he's going to come and just say, Second Amendment is no longer, First Amendment's no longer. He's just going to pretty much come out and just nullify the Constitution. I mean, you know, he made a speech the other day, some people saying, well, you know what, the Second Amendment right is just costing too many lives.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he says something like that, guess what? He's planning on getting rid of it.
Yeah,
you
he says
just
things
make
like
a statement like that.
He says, you know, there's people out there who think you should be able to get into a bar room with a machine gun. Aren't machine guns illegal already?
Yeah, they're, you know, fully automatic weapons have been illegal forever.
Yeah, since the Thompson machine gun, right? Shortly after.
Pretty much.
Yep. Hey, Ferguson heated up again. A couple of cops got shot, and they caught up with the shooter. He admitted he was part of, you know, that he was the shooter. This kid, his name is Jeffrey Williams. His Facebook page is Jeffrey Locke, L-O-C, Williams. Anyhow, his page is still up, by the way. Well, he confessed to shooting 2 police officers in Ferguson. Jim Hoft over at Gateway Pundit says Williams fired several shots, striking one officer in the face and another officer in his shoulder. But Williams told police he did not specifically target the police. Ferguson protest leader Bishop Robinson visited Williams in jail. Williams told him that the shots he fired were in self-defense. He said a protester was trying to rob him, and he said he could not describe the protester, by the way. And I asked him if he could have shared with us that there were leaders out there were law enforcement, that if someone was going to rob him, he should have let one of us know so we could have had his back. Bishop Robinson said he was not buying the story. Anyhow, according to Mike Tobin, Williams told Bishop Robinson that he came down on Wednesday night to support the movement, and then he shot 2 cops. Let me tell you something. You don't accidentally shoot 2 cops, one in the head and one in the shoulder, at a distance that far by accident if you're shooting at somebody who's trying to rob you. Plus, the kid said he was in a car. How come he didn't just drive away if somebody's robbing him? I'm not buying that story one bit.
Oh, it's just...
Yeah, and now they're taking up a collection for him, for his legal expenses. And there's people out there saying, well, they coerced the confession out of him. No, they didn't. He was actually ratted by his friends and peers. There was a reward out there, and the reward was paid, so somebody ratted him. Now, we have talked about Ferguson. We told everybody about their West Florissant plan, and it's located between the highways and the 2 major corridors. It's on the way to the new stadium. They want to regentrify the area, and they didn't have the money to do it, but they did vote to raise and rehabilitate the area. Well, now home values are plummeting. They're selling houses up there and can't sell them for like $22,000. And nobody's buying them. One guy lost 2 sales. He was a real estate agent. He lost 2 sales. One of the shop owners is trying to sell his whole building with all the stores in it. He said he'd be lucky if he could find a sucker to pay $300,000 for it, a business that, that building and property and everything was worth $1 million last year. But nobody wants to move there. We told everybody that. We told them they're going to be pushing all the blacks and the poor people out of there and regentrify the area. We told them it's close to the schools. It's on the way to the new stadium. The guy says if somebody buys this building, right across the street is just burnt out, just squalor and rubbish. And it was an old tire store, but now it's just piles of burnt out rubble. Who wants to look out the door and see that? People aren't even slowing down, never mind stopping at any of the stores that are still there.
Oh, they'll probably sell it to the Chinese. There's some rich Muslims and, fill it up with refugees and illegal aliens or something.
No, they're just going to let them go vacant, and then they're going to consider them blight, and the city will take it over. They won't even have to pay a nickel to these people. And then they'll sell it to the highest bidder and regentrify the area. There's no blacks going to be there. There's no poor people going to be in Ferguson. And the plans are already out there.
Yeah, and it worked like a charm, didn't it?
The West Corridor project. And then, on top of it, that Holder has federalized the Ferguson police. They can't even go to the men's room without his permission. But now he's got 6 more cities that he's got this pilot program for. The 6 cities are called pilot cities, and that means there's more to come. There's an article from Universal Free Press. It's another overreach of constitutional authority as Obama firms his authoritarian grip on American society, just as he and his henchman Eric Holder promised. Obama is launching his police force federalization program. He's doing so in the complete absence of any constitutional authority to take such action. He's fabricated a weak and false narrative of rampant racism in order to create a premise upon which to insert the federal boot into the door. He's saying all these police departments are racist. But what he's doing is he's manufacturing those facts. Somebody sent a racist email. You know how many racist emails I see all day, whether it's a black, white, Chinese, Italian? I mean, come on. Their emails did maybe not nice, but you're not protected from not nice. You're protected to be able to say things that aren't nice. However, so now he's saying we have this rampant racism. He used Ferguson as an example, that more blacks were pulled over in that area than whites were. Well, hello, it's a black neighborhood, and it would be predominantly black people riding to and from and through that neighborhood. If you don't have any white people in the neighborhood, how are you going to pull over white people?
And now you know why he mentioned it at the United Nations.
Right. Oh, in the United Nations, we're going to get into that because he's pulling in the United Nations and everything else. Well, now, any police force in the country, if there is an officer-involved shooting, it has to go in front of his review board, no matter if the cop was right, wrong, or anything else. He doesn't have that authority to just step in and take over local crime like that. That's why we have local police forces. And then you've got police forces who are actually going along with it. And, they're going to end up with $4.7 million. The federal handout amounts to $4.7 million, supposedly to provide training as well as dictate policy and fund the perpetual black hole of research into the issue of distrust between citizens and law enforcement. Some funding into the reasons underlying the distrust of the United States citizens of their government would be money much better spent, but the Marxist feds probably wouldn't care for the results. You got the Birmingham police chief, A.C. Roper. He spoke of his city's decision to hook up to the federal cash IV, saying, "We're truly honored that the DOJ would select Birmingham as one of 6 national pilot sites. The mayor and I actually started discussing this initiative several months ago and knew there would be over 100 cities vying for the limited opportunities." Those are not opportunities, ladies and gentlemen. Well, they are for the police departments, and they are for the federal government, but those are not opportunities for you. What opportunity is there for you? You think anything's going to change? And do you think once the feds get their hands in local law enforcement that they will ever back off? Not going to happen, folks.
Nope.
Pay attention.
Just in-your-face Gestapo. I mean, we've become the new Fourth Reich.
Yeah, this is getting really, really scary. When this guy can just say, "Okay, I'm going to take over the police forces," and he does it. He's allowed to do it. Why do we bother having other politicians when we only need one? What exactly is their purpose?
I've been saying that for a decade at least.
If we only need Obama.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you put in there. They all fold. They all flip because they're all blackmailed up to their eyeballs. They don't even get a run for those positions if they're not filthy.
You can't even blame Obama for this, even though it's him at the head of the table right now. This is something that had to have been in place and in the works for decades. We see the Constitution as our founding document, as the document we live by. They see it as a challenge accepted. They find ways to go around it, to use it as a weapon instead of as a shield for the people.
Well, yeah, and there's only 2 reasons why you become a constitutional attorney to begin with. It's either because you want to protect the Constitution and you cherish it, or you want to find every legal way possible to rip it to shreds.
Yes, that's a good point. But, this stuff has to have been set up and ready for him to just step in and take right over.
Oh, it was.
It
was.
So then we should
the people that control this country and this government, Council of Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, these groups, they're the ones, that's the establishment. Those are the ones who pick the candidates. And they know which one is the biggest puppet, who's going to be, easiest to control, and who's going to do whatever they tell them, and that's who becomes president.
Yeah, well, that's a good argument for term limits, too. Because, if these commissions can get their talents into these politicians, it's because these politicians, they want to stay there. They want to be there. This is a lifetime career instead of a public service that they're performing. So you've got to look at people who have been there more than 2 or 3 terms.
It's a license to steal. It's a license to do anything. It's being above the law. It's being able to fly, to Pedophile Island with billionaires and, live like a degenerate creep and get away with it.
Yeah, but then you got the new guys like Tom Cotton who's trying to make a difference, So I think that this is a great argument for term limits. When you look at somebody like McCain or Pelosi or Reid, those people have been there 20, 30 years. That's what the problem is.
You know what? They're never going to pass any laws restricting their power, restricting their term limits, restricting their pay or anything. I mean, they vote for their own pay raises, you know. Nancy Pelosi lives paycheck to paycheck, she says. I mean, you know, it's not easy making payments on 12 different mansions around the world.
Yeah, it's not easy making payments on one little house for most people. You know, but it is. It's people like her. Now, she is another one who makes every law that they make. It doesn't protect you. It protects them from you. They don't have to abide by any laws, like Scott just said. You know, they don't even have to apply. They don't even have to be part of FOIA anymore if they don't want to. They don't have to bring bills to the floor if they don't want to. They are playing game. They can trade with stocks and everything else, insider trading.
Yeah, insider trading, you bet. Well, no, it's a license to steal. It's a license to do anything.
In the meantime,
that's why they spend $100 million to get elected to a $125,000 a year job. That $125,000 is just pocket change, you know.
Oh, hell yeah! And another thing they do is they take donations from people from both sides of issue. All right, say the XL pipeline there. They're taking money from the people who do want the pipeline, and they're taking money from people who don't want the pipeline.
Get bribed on both sides.
Yeah, both sides. And if they make a decision one way, the people who were opposed to it, they don't get the money back. So, they're keeping both piles of money. In the meantime, they're making stupid laws, like all the stuff that, is putting people, in Ferguson, for instance, they have, 36,000 people, and they have 116,000 warrants? That's 2.5, 3, 4, 5 warrants each. For what? For stupid stuff. For failure to pay a parking ticket, so they were brought to court, and they didn't show up at court because they didn't have the money to pay the parking ticket, so now they have a court violation, which is a felony for failure to appear. So now, not only do you have to pay the fine, the original fine, now you have to bail yourself out of jail. You have to wait because the circuit judge is only around like once every 2 weeks. So you sit in jail for 2 weeks waiting for your court date, and then you still have to pay a bail bondsman. You still have court costs. You still have the fines, and then you have more charges on you. So now you went from getting a parking ticket to becoming a felon and sitting in jail.
Yeah, it's all planned that way.
Yeah.
The
Just Us system, yeah, that's all you find in there is Just Us. You won't be finding any of them. Speaking of finding things, Putin has been located. Oh, my goodness.
Told you.
All weekend.
Told you.
All weekend. We played Where's Waldo with Putin.
Not me. I told everybody he was probably with his girlfriend while she was giving birth to Vlad, Jr.
Yep. I would bet that, too. Nobody ever said where he was, but he flew in this morning for a meeting, so he had to come in by plane, so he was somewhere out of the country. Yes, the girlfriend did have a baby boy. She had it by C-section, and let me tell you something. If you're having a baby and the baby's father doesn't show up, the father's in a lot of trouble, whether he's Putin or not. So, he could have been there. They said he had back surgery. He was sitting up pretty fine. He didn't look like he was in any pain or anything, and he was alert, so he didn't look like he was on painkillers. So I don't know about the back surgery story, unless it was just a little physical therapy while he was waiting for his baby. But it was everything from, he was dead, he was poisoned, his bodyguards are all dead, there's a coup going on, Putin's missing. Geez, people panic if they don't have him in their sight.
Yeah, these world leaders are supposed to, be living a real-life Truman show. They're gone for 10 days and the world goes insane. When Kim Jong-un, he was gone a month and, he come back sadder and more obnoxious than ever.
Yeah, Obama takes 10-day vacations, twice a month?
Nobody cares if he comes back, though. That's the difference.
Yeah, they'll look for Putin. They weren't really looking for Obama.
Right. I hope he got lost on the way. Maybe, he fell asleep on the 18th hole.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow there is a huge election in Israel. And Obama has been funding the opposition. The guy's name is Herzog. Well, Herzog is a member of one party, and they have joined with another party there to buddy up to go against Putin. Not Putin, Netanyahu. Boy, I got Putin on my mind. No, Netanyahu. Well, Netanyahu is fighting Obama. He's fighting this other party. It's just getting really ugly. And now Obama had given, by way of the State Department, $350,000 to a group called One Voice. That was a while ago. Well, today the senators are looking into it on whether or not this One Voice was interfering in Israel's elections. Well, come on, folks. How many times we tell you over the last 2 years that they've been over in Israel trying to screw with the government, they're trying to overthrow Bibi. We told everybody that, and continuously. It wasn't just a one-time thing. Well, now it comes out true. His guy, Jeremy Bird, who was the head of OFA, is the head of One Voice. He's over in Israel, along with a bunch of the Soros NGOs and the Acorn Internationals and, all the other little commie groups. They're over there trying to overthrow Benjamin Netanyahu. But now this $350,000 grant is in play. The White House said, well, that was a long time ago, and it expired before this election was even set up. That's a real claim. So what if it expired? And when did it expire? Last week, last month? But still, it's been going on. It was an ongoing thing. So even if it did expire, but that was just seed money to start this up. In the meantime, they've been getting all kinds of donations and collecting major donations from all the little commies and all the little Muslim groups who don't want Israel even on the face of the map, never mind in any position of authority. So this guy Herzog now, he signed on with all of that. He will give the land back to the 67 borders, and Israel will be 8 miles wide. They will never be able to defend themselves. He's depending on Obama to defend Israel. And he's going in all lock, stock, and barrel because Obama's gone all lock, stock, and barrel with him. In the meantime, this is very, very bad for Israel. Even John Voight, who's a very good conservative, and I had the opportunity to meet him one time, he says that Obama seeks to control Israel. Yeah, of course he does. If he can control Herzog, he'll be controlling Israel. But,
Yeah, you were at that meeting where he was speaking at one time about 2 years ago, weren't you?
Yep, OPSEC.
Right.
Yep, I was there. There were a lot of people
You know what?
there.
I just think it's all, nothing but smoke and mirrors. All these, is this leader going to get overthrown? Is this guy going to get... I think it's all planned. Who's running their country, when, because, certain things have got to happen in succession for this global takeover to happen. And
You're right
now, Saudi Arabia and Israel are sort of on the back burner, so they can build up Iran and blah, 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 so they can get this, World War III going here pretty soon. I'd say 2 years, maybe a year.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. As a matter of fact, we have been doing some research on what's going on with Iran, and of course it does involve Israel, because Israel is right under the gun. Iran always says they want to wipe Israel off the map, but they still say it. They said it like 2 days ago. But in doing some research, here we are thinking that there's a fight going on over an impending Iran deal. Well, guys, I got news for you. There is already a deal, and it's already being implemented. You can tell just by what's going on. Now, you know that Obama freed up a substantial amount of money of Iran's, a lot of assets and stuff. And you also know that he's been in negotiations with Iran for years, which actually told everybody 2 years ago that Valerie Jarrett was holding secret talks with Iran in Qatar. And then it was confirmed by the Israeli newspaper, and shortly after that, CNS put it out too. And CNS put it out November 6, 2012, so we had to have told you before then. Well, today an article was published stating that Iran and Hezbollah had been removed from the terror list. It didn't say when they were removed. but they were removed from the terror list. So when everybody's saying he's giving aid and comfort to the enemy, how can you give aid and comfort to an enemy that isn't a declared enemy? They're off the terror list. They're not enemy anymore. Same with the Taliban. Remember when Joe Biden said that the Taliban isn't our enemy per se? Well, those talks were going on up in Qatar, too. And it's always Valerie Jarrett. You know, they're trying to remake the Persian Empire. Who's the Persian? Obama's not Persian. Anyhow, you know, the U.S. Intel report had scrapped Iran from the list of terror threats. It says, you know, but then the U.S. Senate says that they're not on board with this deal, right? They even sent an open letter to Iran stating that the deal would not be binding if it excluded the ratification by the U.S. Senate. And everybody's freaking out about that. They never even delivered the letter. It was an open letter. They just posted it on, you know, public media. Anyhow, that flipped the administration out. And Obama threatened to go over their heads to the UN. Remember, the UN doesn't have any jurisdiction over us. But what he's doing, right? I mean, he was reminded that no deal or foreign body supersedes the U.S. Constitution. But he's sly, and he knows that. But it also doesn't matter. Here's how he's going to do it. What he's going to do is he's going to get the UN member countries to lift their sanctions, therefore making the Republicans irrelevant. The rest of the world will remove the sanctions, and the Republicans will be the only ones blocking the U.S. from doing likewise. Now, I don't have any faith that the Republicans are going to stand their ground, even though they're right, but the pressure is going to be immense. So once the Republicans cave, then they'll start calling it a treaty. And whether or not the Republicans actually ratify it, the rest of the world is not going to sign on to new sanctions once they remove their old ones. So only the U.S. is going to be acting and dealing with Iran by way of a third party. Everybody else is going to be able to deal directly with Iran. But, you know, our good old Congress, they'll go around themselves. They'll just have, you know, if the UK takes their sanctions off, anything they need from Iran, they'll just go to the UK and make the UK get it for them. So they'll be using third-party brokers. And that brings me to this. Here we are squabbling about this pending deal when in reality there's already a deal in place and it's being implemented right before our eyes. Now we're supporting this Mahdi army in Iraq to fight ISIS. The Mahdi army is Hezbollah. They're Hezbollah elite. They're run by Muqtada al-Sadr, as a matter of fact. They were trained by Iran to destroy the Iraqis, and now they're tasked with fighting for Iraq against ISIS in Iraq. All right? We took to creep back, but now we're turning it over to the Mahdi army. I mean, this should tell us we already have entered a deal with Iran to turn over Iraq to them, all of Iraq. You know, maybe it's a pre-nuke deal, you know, like a prelude to the final draft, but this part here is not about nukes. This part's about territory, and it's already being implemented. Now, I've got an article here that says the Iraqi militia, loyal to radical cleric, joins the Tikrit offensive. Now, you know, Hezbollah has come out of Lebanon, so we must be turning Iraq and Lebanon over to Iran. We know Al-Qaeda got Yemen. We know that Qatar wants Libya.
It's gonna be this caliphate thing, but you know, I see something else coming down the pike for this UN and the federalizing the police force. Since they're always doing things incrementally, first they federalized the police force, okay?
Yeah.
And by turning more and more power over to the UN, they declare that the Second Amendment is costing too many lives, and the UN will just pretty much ban guns across the board, worldwide or whatever, and then they'll be using the federalized police to try to confiscate them. And when that doesn't work, or if it doesn't work in a lot of areas, and there's riots, or we have a financial collapse, which is, you know, imminent, then they'll just say, well, you know what, we can't afford the police anymore because the federal government's broke. I guess we're going to have to turn it into an international police force. And you'll have the UN as your neighborhood police department.
Yep. Well, that sounds about
They'll
right.
be the ones
like the ultimate plan.
Okay.
Yep. You know, if they disarm the whole world, then who's going to fight with each other with guns? Well,
yeah. We'll be the outcasts. We'll be the bad country because we're the country that wants to keep onto those evil guns.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. If you're going to be disarming the world, you shouldn't disarm yourself first.
That's what they do, though. They don't. They, you know, whenever they try to pass gun control laws, They don't say, this is going to help get rid of guns in the hands of criminals. No. This is how we're going to get rid of guns in the hands of law-abiding American citizens trying to protect themselves from criminals.
That's right. You know, if you obey their laws, you leave your gun home. The criminal's not going to leave his gun home. He's going to know yours is home. So he's bringing his with him.
Yeah.
You know, another thing about this Iran deal.
Go ahead.
Another thing about this Iran deal is the person who is in charge of doing the negotiations. Her name is Wendy Sherman. Wendy Sherman is a social worker. So when you hear people like Hillary and Marie Hoff and Jen Psaki saying that we should have empathy for our enemies and they only need social structure and jobs, it's because the person who's doing the negotiation is not a military expert. She's got a master's in social work. Her name, like I said, is Wendy Sherman. Here's a little bit about her. Sherman attended Smith College from 1967 to 1969 and received her degree from Boston University in 1971 in the field of sociology and urban studies. In 1976, she earned a master's degree in social work from the University of Maryland. She subsequently began her career as a social worker before going into politics. So now you know where Hoff and Psaki and Hillary got the word empathy. Now, the story is two women, Catherine Ashton and Wendy Sherman, key shapers of the Iran deal. Catherine Ashton is a Brit. She's another complete socialist. So we have social workers and community organizers making the deals now. And like I said, you can forget trying them for treason. You can't give aid and comfort to the enemy if they're not the enemy. So now they're just poor, oppressed urban youth who need jobs, and they've turned to violence, and we should have empathy for them. They just really need a hug. Don't hug them too tight, though, because they might be carrying a machete and take your head off. But that's what's going on.
Everything they do is illegal. You know, exempting themselves from Obamacare, exempting themselves from the Freedom of Information Act, you know, making deals behind their back, having insurance companies write health care laws, having 4,000-page bills that nobody reads. Everything they do from the minute they wake up until they go to sleep is illegal. But when when you have no one who's going to arrest you or hold you accountable, and voters can't do anything, what's a voter going to do? Go jump the White House fence and see if they can, trip over a drunk, passed-out Secret Service guy?
Yeah, for real.
I mean, it's runaway lawlessness. And this is what happens when a government gets too big. And it always ends up the same way. A pile of skulls. And the pile of skulls are always the citizens. And, when you have these people, that are in the White House now who are hanging Chairman Mao Christmas ornaments off their tree, and you got people like Governor Cuomo and Hillary Rotten Clinton who think Chairman Mao was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Boy, I tell you what, we got some serious problems.
Yeah. You're not kidding.
They're going to emulate their heroes sooner or later.
I'm telling you.
And they always demonize the people they go after too. In Germany it was the Jews. Over here it's gun owners, pro-constitutionalists, patriots, white people, Christians.
Yeah.
Welcome to 1929
and you're right about the pile of
East
skulls
Germany.
too. You're absolutely right about the pile of skulls, because anytime there's ever mass killings, especially by governments, who is it? It's not the other government members. No, it's always the poor little guy, the guy just trying to get by.
Yeah, democide, death by government.
Yep.
And you know what? Old Bill Ayers, Obama's best buddy in college, throughout his life, he was writing papers about, well, you know what, we're going to have to get rid of about 30 million Americans to make this happen, but oh well.
Yeah, well, you know what they do is they're going to make you all kill each other. The blacks are going to fight the whites, the gays are going to fight the straights, the Jews are going to fight the Muslims are going to fight everybody.
That'll be the first wave, and then, the federalized, internationalized police force will come in, mop up afterwards.
Yeah. And then they'll blame it on poverty.
Yeah, they'll blame it on the guy in the John Deere hat trying to make a living selling, tomatoes on the corner.
Yep. Exactly. Unbelievable.
I know. It's depressing as hell,
And this Iran deal, he started a nuclear arms race. Did you know that?
Right.
The Saudi prince today.
And that's what all this other news is diverting us from. The Ferguson thing, the Putin thing, the Netanyahu thing, snore. None of that matters. None of that is going to matter a month from now. But what you're talking about right now, this is huge.
Yeah,
a nuclear arms race in the Middle East with nothing but a bunch of savages that shouldn't have anything more expensive than a dirt clod in their hand to throw.
Yeah, and
they're
like
all
I said,
going to
the
have
Saudi
the football.
He said if Iran has the ability to enrich uranium to whatever level, it's not just Saudi Arabia that's going to ask for that. And he says any terms that world powers grant Iran under a nuclear deal will be sought by Saudi Arabia and other countries, risking wilder proliferation of atomic energy. That's from Turki al-Fazal. He's a Saudi prince. So, and, Iran is their main rival. So if Iran has a nuke, then you know damn well Saudi Arabia wants one. And you know that the Pakistanis have a nuke, and you know the India has a nuke, and North Korea has a nuke. And of course, China and Putin. Putin has a nuke. Putin said when Obama was putting the Humvees up there on the border, he laughed at that. He said, those a couple of troops and some vehicles don't bother me, not in this nuclear age. Now, you know damn well what that means.
They still have thousands upon thousands of them. I mean, they got rid of some of them, during their fake collapse. And that was no collapse. They got, the people suffered off of that, but they didn't get rid of their army. They didn't get rid of their, capabilities to attack. Yeah, well, and then they're complaining about the Republicans sending a letter. Well, Biden said that, the GOP letter was expressly designed to undercut a sitting president. Well, he should probably go back a little bit because in 2008, a Democrat senator sent a personal emissary to Tehran encouraging the mullahs not to sign an agreement with the outgoing Bush administration as negotiations would take on a much friendlier tone following President Bush's departure from office. That senator was Obama. So he contacted Iran. That's different because he did it,
Yeah. Yeah, and then you had Pelosi. She went to Syria and talked to Bashar al-Assad a couple times. And Kerry was talking to the Viet Cong. Andy was talking to Putin during the Cold War when Reagan was president. So they got a lot of nerve. Now, the White House said that the Loretta Lynch delay, by the way, McConnell put off the vote for Loretta Lynch to replace Eric Holder.
Yeah, you know why? Because Holder ain't ready to go yet. He still has to put the finishing touches on Ferguson and federalizing the police.
Yeah. Well,
McConnell doesn't do anything except look like an
Obama
idiot.
said that it was unconscionable, and there's no legitimate questions about Lynch's qualifications for the post. Oh no? I got a couple of questions. How come she kept Hillary Clinton secret? Found an article. And it says 1992, the commodities trade. During Bill Clinton's first run for the White House, his campaign declined to release all of the couple's tax returns. Later, it emerged that the campaign had weighed requests from the press and decided not to do so because a few of the returns showed Hillary Clinton's spectacular success in commodities trading. He was just talking about that insider trading, in which she made almost $100,000 from an initial investment of $1,000 in a matter of months, for a return of almost 10,000%. Hillary Clinton threatened a campaign lawyer who had access to the material, with retribution if she released the data. You will never work in Democratic politics again, the lawyer told Loretta Lynch.
You don't
kept
get
that secret.
You don't get promoted and you don't get jobs like she's going to get unless you have proven your treacherousness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it used to be where honesty and hard work and this and that used to open doors for you. Well, not anymore. Now if you can go on Sunday morning talk shows like Susan Rice and look people in the eye and just lie through your fangs for, 6 hours for that day, then you get the big job. That's your job interview right there. It doesn't
She's got
matter
a great
what the press
job.
says. Right.
She's got a great
doesn't
job.
Matter
She's
what the
running
press
the
or
war.
people think. It's what the criminal government thinks. They know they can trust.
What exactly is Susan Rice's qualifications to be given general's orders and to be running wars, whether it be in Iraq, Iran, or Afghanistan, or anywhere else? What is her qualifications? Because, I'm thinking they have their own little network. No wonder he doesn't read his daily briefings. He doesn't need them. They have their commie briefings every day. They don't give a damn what our generals say.
Right, and somebody else is making the big decisions anyway. Why should he be sitting in on briefings when they're not his decisions? He just delivers them. Like a speech.
Model.
Uh-huh.
I don't think he's smart enough to do any of this. Everything was put in place. All he had to do was put his ass in that chair and smile and wave, folks. That's it.
I tell you what, and the teleprompter thing. I mean, that was unheard of. I mean, as much as I dislike Bill Clinton, one time he was giving a speech, and he was using the teleprompter, for assistance, and the teleprompter went out, and he just continued the entire speech because he had it memorized, okay?
Right.
If this guy's teleprompter went out, he'd be sitting there going, I mean, you know what? He's an idiot.
He'd be stuck on the toilet. And there would be nothing to say. Wipe, flush, wash hands.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
But,
I mean, as much as I can't stand him, the reason why I can't stand him is it's not because I know that he's the one doing all this and it's his mastermind and everything. It's the fact that he enjoys it so much.
Right.
I mean, he relishes in the fact of looking you in the face, lying, to your face, and burning the Constitution in a bonfire. He gets off on it.
Yeah, I believe
that. Makes me sick.
Yeah, I got one more story before we go to break, and when we get back, probably Tori Nissen will be here. But Jerry Brown, your favorite governor, Moonbeam.
Oh,
or Moonbat. What do you call him, Moonbeam or Moonbat?
It's Governor Moonbeam.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was Moonbeam or Moonbat, but I wanted to bring this story to your attention. He's telling all the Democrats, do not run against Hillary. He told the Dems not to run against her, and he called the Republicans unchristian troglodytes. This is from Politico. Jerry Brown ran against Bill Clinton in the 92 Democratic primaries. Now he doesn't think anyone should run against Hillary Clinton when she seeks the nomination next year. I can't think of anything I'd rather have less if I were running for president than to have a competitor in the primary, the California governor said, speaking to reporters at the White House on Friday afternoon, following a series of meetings with staff about climate change. Brown said he didn't see the need for an internal party fight. What he wants, he said, is Clinton knocking the GOP field on immigration reform, Obamacare, climate change, and other differences. The primaries get into all the little nuances and small differences of candidates of the same parties, Brown said. What Hillary needs is a good debate drawing the distinctions between where she stands and where all these Republicans, these wannabes running around. He took particular aim at the lawsuit from many Republican governors and attorneys general challenging Obama's immigration executive actions, calling their position at best troglodyte and at worst unchristian.
He's just a butt
the biggest
kisser.
commie in the world, and he wants to start preaching Christianity.
He's a butt kisser, and Martin O'Malley's going to come out and crucify that witch, and it's going to be funny. But it just, and it's all theater, but it's still fun to watch,
Mhm.
Because it's about the only time when some truth comes out, because they're all beating each other over the head with their dirty laundry.
Mhm. You're right.
So it's kind of fun.
All right, we got to take our break, and want everybody to go have a cigarette, get something to drink, whatever, and we'll be right back. And when we get back, our guest of honor will be here. I see she's on the switchboard now. So we'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. And hello again, everybody. You're listening to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at PRN Radio Network. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host Scott Ferrarello is here with me, too. Before we went to break, I promised you that we had a very special guest for you, and we actually do. Let me introduce Tori Nissen. Tori Nissen is a blogger extraordinaire. She's a journalist, researcher, analyst, and that's what she does in her spare time. She's got a real job, too. And she's going to be here to talk about her article that she wrote recently, as well as a whole bunch of other topics. She can keep up with us. She's on our crew and everything else. As a matter of fact, I got my start with her. So let me bring her on. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tori Nissen. Hi, Tori.
Hi, how are you, Joanne and Scott?
Oh, it's great to hear your voice.
Welcome from the left coast.
The left coast. Yeah, I don't know how you still stay out there.
It's tough.
What's going on over there?
Well, I was reading, I think it was Doug Giles' article today about barbecues and how the EPA wants to do away with barbecues because they pollute. And you know what? They're doing that out here. They are doing that out here. In certain areas, you cannot have a barbecue. So
wow.
Nobody is. I get so frustrated because nobody speaks out, and I think that's true all over the country.
Yeah, I know. They want people to put some sort of special filters and stuff on their barbecue grill, or they want to ban them from having barbecues at all. I'm glad you brought that up.
Right. It's insane. It's completely insane. And that's how things are out here, completely insane. We've got a drought because they did away with the Delta smelt, which wasn't even a natural habitat to the area of Central California, but they did. But in order to protect it, so they say, they eliminated irrigation or any kind of water supply. So the farmers up there have lost billions of dollars of revenue. You go up there and it's a desert. It's not farmland anymore. So, yeah, they're crazy here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we've talked about that. We've talked about that Delta smelt. You're right. They're not indigenous to that area. But why they really shut the water, they could scoop up all those fish and put them in a fishery until they found a place with their regular habitat that actually isn't there. But what happened is because of the droughts, the water levels in the rivers had decreased. And that was allowing the Pacific Ocean to come inland further, because there wasn't enough pressure in the rivers to keep the ocean out. Well, you know what's up there at the beginning of the river is Nancy Pelosi's vineyards. You can't let the salt water get on those vineyards. You can't let the salt water get on those grapes.
Right.
So she needs the water pressure up there so it holds back the Pacific. The Delta smelt is a lie.
Yeah, we should throw some smelt into her vineyards. I think that would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, well, she can't let the salt Pacific Ocean get near those grapes because the salt wouldn't be good for them. So as long as she keeps the river pressure up, she's fine, and she'll use the Delta smelt. But I don't even know how you stay out there on that coast.
And we have a lot of immigrants.
I heard that about California.
Brings us to our topic. Well, you wanted me to talk about the immigrants coming in. Basically, last November, you guys remember President Obama announced that he had a plan to help the broken system of immigration. And basically, it was three areas that he was going to work on, and that is strengthening our borders, and our borders here are wide open, helping the unlawful population, the people in the shadows, and also legal immigration. He was going to straighten that out and help people come here legally. Well, that's what was announced, and that's what the press went with last November. However, we all know now that that was all BS. It was another, if you like your health care, you can keep your health care kind of thing. What he says and what he does are always two different things, it seems. So, as many of you know, radio talk show host and journalist Susan Payne called into the Mark Levin show a couple of weeks ago. she had inadvertently, I guess as a news commentator, been invited to the White House. And she sat in on 3 separate conference calls. Mm-hmm. Ted Hayes, who is out here, he's a black activist that helps the homeless people, was also in on the calls. And I've called Ted a couple of times. He said he was going to call me back, and he never has. So we'll see what happens there. But I don't know why he's not speaking out about it either. But anyway, she was on these 3 calls. There were 16 representatives of the White House on these calls, which is interesting because in the memorandum of last November, it was pointed out that 16 agencies would support, this new way to fix the immigration system. So some of her facts are clear, and they do support what was published last November. It's just rolling it out seems to be a little different than anticipated. So basically what they're going to do is, and this is why they opened our borders, they are inviting 15 million people in from Mexico, Central America, South America, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. They're going to bring these groups in, and people, this is so sick. It's completely insane. People, they're not going to wait necessarily for people to cross our borders. If you live overseas and you have a reason to come to America, you just let us know. You don't even have to be a refugee. You just want to come to America, and they will actually go and get you.
Yeah.
They will fly you in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been doing it right along. As a matter of fact, they opened up some youth offender programs and just unloaded all those kids on us. They emptied out orphanages down in El Salvador and Guatemala, and they sent those babies up with some church organizations. They said that these children had trekked across all that terrain and through Mexico to get here. Please, what 2-year-old can read GPS, climb mountains, swim, take trains, planes? Yeah, and they came here unaccompanied.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and they were all dressed, in their Obama sneakers and Obama shirts.
Right. And so they're bringing these groups in, and this has been in the works a long time, too. I met a woman several months ago, almost a year ago, who is a judge down in Memphis, Tennessee. She's originally from here, from Los Angeles. In 2010, Holder appointed her as an immigration lawyer in Memphis. She was one of the judges, and he appointed quite a few, but she was one of the judges that talked to these kids and people coming across the border last year. So this has been in the works a while because she was appointed almost 5 years ago. So they're going to bring immigrants into our country. They're going to give them all the benefits. He's appropriated, with the help of the Republicans, $1.7 billion have already been approved. And, of course, it's going to launder its way through the DHS bill, Department of Homeland Security bill.
That's a lot of money.
It's a ton of money, and it's all our tax dollars. And what's frustrating is nobody is speaking out about this. I mean, when was the last time you heard, Republicans speaking out? We just don't. They're not outlining this, and this is what's going to cause our country to really technically be destroyed. So they're going to give these people benefits. They're going to give them schooling. They're going to give them whatever they need. In fact, here in Los Angeles, it's my understanding that they have programs of teaching illegals how they can, get into the U.S. and take advantage of all the benefits. So,
I heard that too. They had the social workers set up to take them to all the different places where they will be able to apply for benefits and relief.
Right. And I passed the DMV a couple of weeks ago. God, there must have been 200 people in line. And you generally don't see people outside in line. You may see a couple hanging around, but you don't see them lined up around the building. So they're getting their driver's licenses right now, and Californians who are here legally or citizens of California are put on hold. So once they bring these illegals through the system, they're going to put them in certain areas in the country. They're not telling us where they're putting them. Last summer, I called Eric Garcetti. He's the mayor's office several times. Couldn't get anybody. Nobody would tell us. We have no idea where these people are. No idea.
Right.
Whatsoever. Right. So they're going to pick them up, feed them, clothe them, give them all kinds of benefits, and then they're placing them in what they call communities within a community, meaning they're going to be self-contained. They're not going to be part of America. They're not. In fact, I don't even know if they're going to be part of Los Angeles if they're here. They're going to be self-contained, and it's a community within a community.
That sounds like Agenda 21.
It is. I believe it is. It is. So the goal is to grow them, and this is what she said, that they start off in the shadows, but when they're provided with everything they need to be living here in the U.S., they will rise up, and Americans will be in the shadows. They'll basically rise up and take over. Now,
it sounds like they're setting up tribal regions.
Right. Almost like what they're talking about in Europe with the Muslims. What do they call them?
The no-go
the little
zones.
Pockets, the no-go zones. Right. That's what it reminded me of. And here in L.A., there's a lot of building being done. There's apartment buildings being torn down, new developments being put up, which they call multi-use developments. You know, you've got your strip mall, you've got your office buildings, and you've got your apartments. I went to a conference a couple of weeks ago to see Rick Perry here, and there were a lot of people there talking about various topics, one of which was Agenda 21. And going along with this theory is when you look at these multi-use developments going up, there's a part, and I'd like to know if this is going on in other parts of the country, but there's part of the project which says so many units have to go to low-income housing. And they cannot define low-income housing. Is it poor people? Is it minorities? Is it immigrants, illegals? I mean, who are these people?
Yeah,
so that may be the community. Yeah, exactly. That may be the community within a community.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I know that they've built some of those up in Boston too, up in the South End. They have stores underneath. They took the old brownstones in the big row of buildings, and they put retail down below, and they put offices on the second floor, and then on the third through fifth and sixth, seventh, eighth floors, they put apartments up there, and the developers had to leave some aside. They're doing it in the big towers up in New York too, that I know of.
Oh, that's interesting. When you say big towers, right in Manhattan?
Yeah, they have to set aside so many for low income. So, and then that does sound just like Agenda 21. They want everybody shoved into these micro apartments in the city. They don't want you traveling around. Everything you need should be right there in your community. And you're right, and especially if they're, like a religious no-go zone, using Muslims as an example. You know, they're churning us all into tribal regions. They're getting rid of all our farmland. You just explained that. Eventually they will turn the water back on, but not before they've driven everybody else out. And then you'll have the big agricultural companies come in and take it over.
I heard this morning, I listened to KSFO in the morning, which is up in San Francisco. Brian Sussman's on. Sometimes he subs for Mark Levin. So he's out of San Francisco. Great show. They were talking this morning about how the dams up north are being destroyed. So not only did they have the Delta smelt erase some of the water, but they're literally knocking down a lot of the dams up north, so we're going to have even less water. Which was the interesting thing about some of these multi-use developments here. In Marina Del Rey, there's a development. It's there are apartment buildings. They're not even leveled yet, but there's plans in out there, and one of the plans calls for. Not grass, but what do you call that when they substitute non-grass?
The AstroTurf?
Like cactuses and things that don't need water. There's a name for it. But the plans for this multi-use, which haven't started yet, call for this so that they can save on water, what is interesting is we didn't have a drought when they put these plans into play. We have a drought now. We didn't have a drought 2 or 3 years ago when this was all being put together. So
those plants actually suck up a lot of water, and then they store it because they don't know when they're going to get more plants. Grass is a surface plant, so it can live just on a slight rain, and you can have grass. But why would they be building all these multiplex units if there's no water supply? What are they going to do? Are they doing desalinization or any of that up there?
Not that I'm aware of. None that I'm aware of. We should. Israel has a great program in that, and we're not doing it. We're right on the coast. So my thing is that if they take your food and your water, guess what? You're dependent upon them. I mean, look at in Cuba. In Cuba. Is it Cuba or is it Venezuela? I think it's Cuba. Everybody gets a book of rations every month. And somebody was being interviewed who said he usually goes through that book in about 3 weeks. So for that last week of every month, he has to figure out where to get his food. And, it may come to that. I mean, who knows? I know that sounds crazy, but how crazy is it to take people's water supply away?
Yeah,
These people are absolutely insane. Yeah.
Yeah, they are insane. They are, and they're deviants, too. But, I did see that about how with this Trans-Pacific Partnership and China's revitalization, that they're going to be focusing more on their own products being distributed in China, and they're going to have their focus less on exports. So, that means we don't have any manufacturing. And they're driving all these small farms out. They're taking over land. They're taking over water rights, mineral rights, cattle and stuff, in the ranches. They're taking all this federal land back, and they're confining cattle into smaller and smaller places, and they're driving all these, small farmers, small ranches out. So where are we going to get food?
Right. Makes
you wonder. The only one who's going to be able to afford a farm is that big, Monsanto. Right. One of the agricultural.
Yeah. So I think it's part of Agenda 21. I don't think it's necessarily Obama. I think it's McCain. I think it's Boehner. I mean, you look at all of these people. I mean, look at what's happening with Benghazi, not to change the subject, but I think this is all connected. What's Trey Gowdy doing? What the hell is he doing? I like the guy, and yet we still don't know why Obama didn't issue a cross-border authority. We still don't know where Obama was. We still don't know why Eric Holder was in Qatar that day and why Obama had a conference call with Qatar on the same day as Benghazi. We don't know what the Turk was doing there. We don't know what the meeting was all about, and we don't know why he left unscathed. I mean, hello, those are main questions. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to ask those questions, and yet Gowdy hasn't asked any of those questions.
And Gowdy hasn't even, put Leon Panetta up on the stand to ask him what was going on.
Right.
It's all he does is bark. There's no bite, just like all the rest of them.
Right.
And this whole illegal invasion is all Agenda 21, North American Union, one world government BS.
Right.
That's all it is.
Absolutely.
In defense of Gowdy, though, one of the main tenets of that investigation had to be Hillary. She was the Secretary of State. And, he's been jerked around with his FOIA request for her emails, and they keep telling him, well, we don't have this, we don't have that, or that doesn't exist. Well, it didn't exist because she didn't give it to them. So it was actually Gowdy that was the one who initially got all this Hillary stuff out about the emails. So we're never going to get those emails.
No,
He's in complete control of the emails.
Yeah, and I agree. But, Hillary wasn't in charge. The commander-in-chief is in charge. And the commander-in-chief found out about it, 10 minutes after it was initially attacked. And all he had to do was order a CBA, a cross-border authority. Our guys would have been out of there in 2 hours, 3 hours tops. He didn't do it. That's the whole issue. Why didn't he do it? And why was there a pre-scheduled meeting at 5 o'clock at the White House? What was that all about? Those are basic questions.
Probably telling him what he missed while he was at his crack party that weekend. I mean, come on.
Right. Those are basic
those
questions.
Are very valid
They're not
questions.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, those are very valid questions. And it's like pulling teeth.
Right.
And we just get jerked around and slow walked, and people plead the fifth. Now, Kennedy and what was the woman's name? Charlene Lamb, and that other guy hit.
Right.
They actually told the truth.
Right.
You know, money wasn't an issue. They had plenty of money, so that wasn't the issue with security. Hillary claimed that she didn't want a big footprint in Benghazi in Libya.
I'm sure.
Well, if you're running a CIA compound over there, and you have been since Gaddafi, and then you find out that all these emails and these visits from Gaddafi and his sons, and they were talking to Congress and saying, no, we are complying, and there are outsiders here trying to start a civil war here, and these outsiders are transnational fighters in Al-Qaeda and everything, and we're trying to fight them, and there is no impending genocide. Why would we kill all our people? We gave up our nuclear ambitions like you asked us to. We inventoried all our weapons like you asked us to. We even paid reparations for that bombing, for the plane going down, like you asked us to. So why is it you're trying to force us out? And then the Gaddafi brothers, Saif and the other brother, they even said, just give us a few bucks to live on and we're out of here. Just promise us that you're not going to turn over Libya to Al-Qaeda and we'll scram. Where were they going, like Burma or something, one of those small islands, Belarus. And she wanted them dead.
Yeah, and that's what they did. They killed a head of state, which is against international law. And if Holder and Obama would have had to, account for the gun walking thing, to blame the Second Amendment, there wouldn't have been a gun walking thing in Libya. But once you get away with anything, sky's the limit.
Right, that seems to be, and that's why nobody's doing anything on any front. The border, Benghazi, the immigration deal. I mean, I don't know. I think the fix is in. I hate to say that. I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do.
Fix is in. And if you want to know what the Republicans are going to do, all you got to do is listen to what's coming out of George or Jeb Bush's mug, and what's going to. There's no difference between him and Hillary Clinton.
Right.
So I want to ask Jerry Brown, hey, what's the difference between Hillary and Jeb? Because there is no difference.
No, not at all. So I don't know what to do. I'm very frustrated.
I'm very frustrated too. And I think, what's keeping everybody down is actually, like you were just describing, all these benefits, food stamps and housing and everything else that is being provided by the government to not just the illegals, but to lower income people. Hungry people riot. People who are, on their Obama phone and using their Obama food stamps and living in their Obama subsidized house, they're not going to riot.
Right.
You could do anything to these people. These people have actually turned their children over to the government by way of Common Core.
Right.
Right. I mean, they don't even take an interest in their children anymore.
No,
because
they don't.
The government is the nanny. So I really, we need a revolution. That's the absolute truth. We need a revolution. But what's it going to take to get people in the streets? And they don't, I'm not saying everybody has to go to D.C. You can occupy your state capital. You can occupy their local offices. You got to do it in big numbers, though. The people who are lucky enough to have their little low-paying job these days, they're trying to make ends meet. If they take a day or two off, they're going to fail. And they're carrying the weight for everybody. Who's paying for all these benefits?
But people don't care. They don't have that tenacity. They're not reactionary. When I see kids with their parents, I always ask, and I'm talking about maybe 12-year-olds, 10-year-olds, I always ask, so how's school? Fine. Oh, are you learning cursive? No, I can't read cursive, and we'll talk a little bit about it. A lot of times the parents don't know that their kids aren't learning cursive, and what surprises me is that the parents aren't shocked for the most part. It's like, oh, really? Well, they don't have this huge reaction. If my kids weren't learning cursive, I would have a fit.
They don't get
they don't want them to be. They don't want them to be able to read our founding document.
Right. All the founding documents are in cursive, so if you can't read it, you don't know your. And there is no Constitution, and there hasn't been for a long time. Right. That's a myth that the people of this country think is in place, and it hasn't been in place forever.
Right.
We haven't enforced it, and it. Go ahead, Vicki. Go ahead.
I was going to say, how do we get people to react? How do we get people to rise up?
Starvation, but they'll go over and kill their neighbor for a hamburger. They won't band together and do anything. And you know what they do? They bankrupt little countries like Greece to see how people react when they're starving to death, and then they know how to handle a crowd like that.
Right.
Starvation. I didn't think of that.
And starvation and viruses are the two most things that kill off populations the quickest. Therefore, they're going to use those because they're also the cheapest. Let some people lose with the real Ebola, not this fake crap that came around a while back, but I mean the real stuff. And you're going to see some severe numbers going down quick. I mean, if that would have been the real Ebola, and they would have had somebody in Texas with it, they would have lost 250,000 people by now.
Oh, when they were getting off the planes, did you see everybody had hazmat suits on? And then there was always this one guy that didn't, that was with them, that was not in any kind of a hazmat suit, and you kind of scratch your head. What the hell is he thinking?
He was the camera coordinator.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah, they said that he wasn't having direct contact, so he didn't need it, and he had to have a full line of sight, so he couldn't have the heavy gear on.
Something that takes a level 4 bio facility to contain, and this guy's just going to wing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And the other guys mopping up the puke on the ground too. Remember?
Right.
Yeah, they were using a pressure washer and letting it go down the drain.
Right. You got state-run media that'd rather talk about the size of Kim Kardashian's rear end than they would the NDAA, which you just take away your due process and then you write to a lawyer. And they ask Lindsey Graham about it on the House floor, and he's like, "Hey, the guy asked for a lawyer, and I'm going to yell at him and say, you don't get a lawyer.
Yeah.
You're a enemy combatant." Well, that's pretty easy. All you got to do is declare everybody an enemy combatant, and what, you don't get a lawyer anymore?
Yep.
See, the Constitution is supposed to be everybody gets a lawyer. I don't care who you are, what kind of scumbag you are, what kind of third world crapple you came from. You get a lawyer, okay? It's due process. Because if they don't get one, you don't get one.
Right.
Yeah, well, remember, too, that a lawyer is an officer of the court. Even your defense attorney is an officer of the court. So it's already stacked against you.
Yeah.
That reminds me, I just realized it. Why doesn't anybody arrest Obama? Because
Who's going to do that?
Well, the sergeant at arms can arrest him.
Everybody at the top is bought and paid for.
Right.
General Dempsey would eat his own children, okay?
Right.
So the Joint Chiefs of Staff aren't going to do anything. You got John Roberts that was put in there by George Bush, who, if he was a real Supreme Court justice, he'd say, let's see, I'm an expert on the Constitution, and you can't force people to buy a product that the government supplies.
Right.
I mean, it was a no-brainer.
Right.
Okay? And
well,
so you got everybody at the very top that are just so corrupt, and they control everybody underneath them.
Right.
If you do arrest him, what are you going to do with him? There's no court order.
Well, that's what people say, yeah. And then just go on as normal.
He's not even he's not even eligible to be there. So
you know who could arrest him?
You can't impeach him.
You know who could arrest him?
It's just like what Joe Arpaio was doing when he held two separate 2-hour news conferences. The guy was in the DOJ. He knows what he's talking about.
Right.
He's just not some hillbilly from Arizona. And he says, the guy's got 7 different Social Security numbers. Right. The one that he's using right now is a complete fraud. I can prove it. And I can prove the birth certificate's a complete fraud.
Right.
The thing the president put online and had on TV for everybody to witness, you could actually download that document right off the government website and and load it up into your Photoshop program and take away the 7 layers.
Right.
Yeah, we had one of our crew do that.
It wasn't even done well. Anybody knows Photoshop, that you hit a certain button and it melds all the layers together. So if somebody else gets your work or your document, they can't take it apart, change it a little bit, and then claim it's their own. It's copyright infringement.
Right.
They don't even bother to do that.
You know, there is one
they
person
know
who can arrest him.
nobody's
There's
gonna
one
care
person
anyway.
who can arrest him. Judge Hannon down in Texas. If he finds him in contempt, Judge Hannon said that he couldn't implement his immigration policies because it was against the Constitution. Now, one of our GC insiders said that the weekend before that thing came out on a Sunday night. Friday, the federal government let the workers who were working on the immigration go early so they could go home, and on their home computers they could upload as many applications as they could possibly get in before that ruling came in. Ended up being like 110,000 people. Once they put them into the computer, that protects them now from deportation because they have a new status called pending. Well, Judge Hannon found out that Obama had defied that, and he was still processing the illegals.
Right.
So he's trying to get them back into court. He's trying to pull them back into court, and I think that might be tomorrow, that they have to go back in front of Hannon and explain why they defied his order. If Hannon orders him held in contempt, of course it'll be appealed, but he's a federal judge, so he's closer to the top, and they could get emergency orders to the Supreme Court.
He'll disappear quicker than Jimmy Hoffa. Okay? Right. I mean, this is a global mafia.
Right.
And Congress and the president are low-level management. They're just part of another corporation, which they call countries.
That's what it seems like. A greater force is.
And it is. And, you know, they just keep doing unconstitutional, against the law things, just like Henry Kissinger said they were going to do like a year ago. And I mean, even when they're given special deals to businesses to hire illegal aliens over Americans, it's legalized discrimination against your own people.
That's a good point.
Right.
I mean, you know,
point. It just.
Well, the reason they made it an incentive is because of Obamacare. Employer has to cover Obamacare for their employees unless they are illegals, because it's illegal to cover illegals with Obamacare. So if you hire an illegal, you're going to save the $5,000 that you would have had to buy their insurance with, plus you're not going to have to pay the penalties. So it's more beneficial to a business to hire an illegal than it is to hire a citizen. Now, this is why he wants to get them all legal, too, because once they're legal, those benefits go away. Now, they have to have their Obamacare provided for them, or they have to purchase it themselves. So that puts more people on the Medicaid, or more people that have to be covered by employers, and now these people are all legal. It's not a great big deal to become legal. That's why you don't see them all racing down to the immigration office. You know, they tell you, I've been here 25 years. You found everything except an immigration office, and now I'm supposed to feel bad for you?
And this
don't
is how
support
they
me. I've been here 25 years.
This is how they destabilize a peaceful country that's pretty peaceful. You know, it's how they turned the United States into France, to where you're getting Muslim groups and illegal immigration groups rioting and making every city look like Ferguson in 10 years or less. And then, well, you know what? We need to beef up our federal police departments and our militarized police. You know, we might even have to have some UN troops come in and take care of the uprising because, you know, cars are burning now and, you know, it's just to destroy a country from within because they couldn't take it over from outside the country. It's taken a lot to do this kind of damage.
Planned destruction, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. The infiltration is immense. They even have that Grover Norquist in the NRA now. They didn't even know he was an infiltrator. They have Andre Carson.
With the
Andre Carson on our Intel committee.
Who's Andre Carson?
He's a Muslim. And Feinstein appointed him, or was it Pelosi? One of them, it was Pelosi. Appointed him to the Congressional Armed Services Intel Committee.
Yep.
So we have a Muslim Brotherhood infiltrator. Plus, you know, Alibieri, he's down there in Texas now trying to turn Texas Muslim. And who's the other one?
Infiltrator. They got their own political party in our country now. Remember?
John Brennan. John Brennan.
I mean, any other religion would have been fine. Hinduism, Buddhism, you know, whatever. They're pretty peaceful. But no, you see, they had to make it Islam. They had to find the most psychotic, insane group of nut jobs, and to make that, across the board, using every government agency to push this crap, from Department of Education to the DOJ.
It's easy
that's what
if everybody's a Muslim.
Countries the most.
Mm-hmm. It's so much easier for the cabal if everybody's a Muslim, because in Sharia, under Sharia, women and children are property, and they are extremely severely controlled by the men. The imams control the men. So all you have to do is control the imams. The Christians, the Jews, the gays, they're all murdered.
Power.
They're all murdered, so you don't have to deal with them.
And this was written long ago as well. Once they use Islam to destroy all the other religions, then they're going to come in and wipe them out. Because, we got to do something about these Muslims because they're just taking over. They're just, uncontrollable. And then the federalized police and the international police will be taking them out. And that's what they do. They use one
I don't
group
understand.
against the other. They
I don't
use blacks
understand these
against
liberal
whites.
women. How about you, Tori? What about these liberal women? They're all about, coexist and stuff. Do they even know that they would be the first people killed?
I don't know.
You know what?
Yeah,
they don't
think
it's going to happen to them. They're going to think they're useful idiots. We went along with the plan. We were on your team. You're going to help us out, aren't you? You're going to protect us.
Yeah, but Scott, if they help you get in, they can help you get out. They always kill off the useful idiots first.
Yeah, but
go ahead, Tori.
Hold
on a
minute.
minute.
Idiots because they're too stupid to know this.
Well,
Tori,
when you said that.
Say?
I was thinking of the way liberals overall answer things, and I was looking at a Facebook blog a couple of weeks ago. People were blogging about ISIS and how awful, the horrific things that they're doing to everybody. And some libtard blogged, well, look at Salem, Massachusetts. They used to burn witches. Nobody complains about that. I mean, they never deal with the reality of today. It's always blaming somebody else from years past. It's just a method of dealing with stuff. But they don't deal with it.
Obama brought up the Crusades.
Yeah, it
there's
doesn't
a meme.
surprise me about liberal women.
There's a meme that says it all. It says, everything I hate needs to be banned, and everything I like needs to be a right, and the government should pay for. And that's it. That's your Rachel Mad Cow, and that's all of them.
Right.
Oh, we don't like guns. They should be banned. You're a horrible person if you want to defend yourself.
Well, you might want to remind them that gun laws only work on people who will obey gun laws.
They don't buy that. They don't care. I mean, you got Chris Matthews on TV the other day. He can't figure out how criminals get guns. How are they passing these background checks? I think I feel a trickle down my leg.
Can't figure out how they get guns if they consider they're breaking into people's homes.
Unbelievable.
Buying them on the internet.
Yeah, but well,
they get them off the black market.
Right.
And that's what happens when you make something illegal. You create a huge black market. But I guess I didn't learn that during Prohibition, which, by the way, is how Al Capone and all the big mob guys got freaking rich, okay? And then they did away with that, and they created the war on drugs. Well, I wonder what happened there. Same thing.
Yeah, well,
so
maybe we should
make. I mean, you could always get guns. I had a gun when I was 13. You think I went and got a background check and bought that at the store?
The kids at the machine shop used to make them.
Oh, and it was a real nice one, too, by the way.
Yeah. But still, guns are legal.
You can get them anywhere, especially
you can't even have a pop tie.
Right.
You know what? I think I think if I couldn't buy a gun, I think I'd just, I don't know, go to Mexico and see if I can get one from the DOJ. I'm sure he'd drop one in my hand sooner or later.
That
Absolutely.
was cold, Scott. Gotta go get one from Holder. Go to Mexico.
Right. I swear, I'm thinking about changing my name to Carlos. Pretend like I'm sneaking over the fence.
Carlos
say
Danger?
I don't speak no English, and see if I can get some bennies.
Yeah, well,
because if you were born here and you're white, you're done. I suppose I could bake in the sun for a couple of weeks and fake it.
Yeah, I don't understand that's racial stuff that's going on either. I thought that we had all come together and we had made sure that nobody was oppressed because of their religion or their skin tone and everything. And now it's turned around. That
we did it. He set us back 50 years, and they knew this. They thought, there is not enough murder and rape and crime in this country. We got to start letting people out of prison. We got to start bringing in scumbags from South America. We got to start flying them in from third world countries in the Middle East. We have got to start some problems over here, because without problems, we can't rush in with the solution anymore. And who's going to need a militarized police if people aren't burning down houses?
You're describing Cloward Piven.
Yeah, it's standard, And all you do is read Communist Manifesto, Cloward Piven and Saul Alinsky, and you got the entire left-wing platform.
Right.
And the GOP isn't much better. So you know what you're going to have in this fake election coming up? You got two choices. It's going to be the socialist GOP versus the communist Democrats.
Do you think
it's like choosing between Hitler and Mussolini. Which one do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think Jeb's going to be nominated?
Oh, I guarantee he is. I guarantee he will. When has a Bush ever wanted to run and win and hasn't? I mean, wanted to win, okay? Because George H.W. didn't want to win that last time around. I mean, he already was basically controlling Reagan from where he was. That's why he was put in there to begin with, make sure Reagan didn't get anything accomplished. That's who was behind Iran-Contra and all that, with George H.W. And then George Bush gets in there, and now it's Jeb's turn. Well, you know what? You know what he's going to do? Because he's not even lying about it, he's not even pretending to be conservative. He's coming right out and saying, yes, I'm for Common Core, and yes, I'm for illegal immigration. The reason why is he knows he doesn't need the people anymore. And he never really did. And he's got a Mexican wife, so he'll parade her out there in a few weeks, and pretty soon you're going to hear a headline. Oh, this new shocker, illegal aliens are very pro-Jeb Bush. And everybody's going to be freaking out about it on the left-wing media. Well, why would they like him? And it's going to be plausible deniability. So, when he wins, and it doesn't really matter whether it's him or Hillary or him or Martin O'Malley, the same agenda moves forward. They argue about this crap that never changes, like abortion and Social Security. But when it's all said and done, the main global agenda moves forward. And that's why they don't discuss things like this immigration and like this refugee status being used against all these Muslims being flown in here. Because that's the agenda. That's the global agenda, is to turn America into the North American Union, blend us all together. So when they turn us into a third world crap hole like they're going to do, and it goes all over to China, the whole economy and everything is going to be China, China, China.
Yeah, but I've never been able to understand why people like Bush, why people like Bill Gates, and whomever else is okay with this, wants to turn America into, the North American Union.
Because they all
nobody
have
benefits.
Huge.
Really? Why?
Oh, yeah, they benefit no matter what. They've got all their investments and all the money they've stolen from us invested into China now. Okay, the Bushes have got thousands of acres of land and water rights already bought in Paraguay. They all have their little, runways with their private jets ready to get aboard, and as they're lighting America on fire like the mob does when they bust out a joint after robbing it blind, they burn it to the ground, and they get on their planes, and they fly away. That's exactly what they're doing.
You know what else we're doing is we're self-perpetuating, too. When Holder is shaking down banks, they do that sue and settle. He can't put anybody in jail because he was their former attorney. Most of the lawyers in the DOJ came from these huge law firms. And all the banks and stuff were all their former clients. So they're not going to put them in jail. That half of them would have to recuse before they even walked into a courtroom. So what they do is they sue and settle. Well, they don't tell anybody what they do with the money that they settled for. Comes to find out, they're giving them to liberal groups. They just did the same thing with that tax help program. Remember, they had a program that was helping low-income people file their taxes, and they didn't have to pay for the service. Well, now they took away that whole program, and they gave the money to an ACORN group, tax assistance centers. They're all ACORN groups. So that's where the money's going. They're shaking us down. We're paying it ourselves. When they give $350,000 grant to One Voice is actually a United States activist group. So, they've been in business for a while. They've been getting all kinds of money. And
they
we're
create
the ones
their own
forking
revolving
it over
doors.
To them.
Okay,
Yeah.
they create their own revolving doors to protect each other. The FDA has a revolving door into Monsanto. The lawyers have a revolving door into the lawmakers that could, send them to jail, and so on.
Yeah.
So they just, you scratch my back now, and I'll scratch your back later.
Wow.
I mean,
this
it is
has been a really good
crime
conversation.
syndicate, is what it is. It is. These people make, the 5 families in New York look like a bunch of Boy Scouts.
Right.
Yeah, really.
Actually, in fact, you
mentioned
that. I'm surprised the mob's not doing something, because overall, throughout the years, they've been very patriotic. They may be killing their neighbors, but they've been patriotic.
I happen to know that most mob guys, they support Democrats, and do you know why that is? Because they were more corrupt and easier to rob. And
unions, I guess.
And this is all about money.
Too.
And when you got your own money printing machine, you can print whatever you want. No one's going to pay for it anyway. It's all debt. No one's going to pay for it anyway. Oh, you need a few $1 billion? Here you go. We'll just create a green company, and we'll give you $30 billion for that green company, and you'll go bankrupt in 6 months, and you'll kick $10 billion over to the Castellanos because he's helping us out.
It's exactly what Obama's doing.
That's exactly what he did with those green loans.
Right.
Yes.
Hey, Tori, we're running out of time here.
Okay.
You got a great
hold on.
radio
Don't go.
voice by the way.
Who are you talking to?
You.
Oh, thank you.
Use.
Thank you.
Use.
Thank you.
Yeah, she does. She has a great radio voice. Hey, Tori, is there any other thing you want to bring up before we end the show? Any
we got
comments?
5 minutes. No, just that I know friends of Joan Rivers, and they're investigating that. They still don't know what happened, and I thought that was kind of interesting. They're suing for the purpose of not getting money, but for the purpose of discovery, to see exactly what the hell happened. Because she had an appointment to get a minor thing done in an office, in a regular office. A second doctor came in with her entourage, and I believe that the doctor, I don't know if it was a man or a woman, I've heard both, did a procedure on her that apparently she didn't approve of, and a procedure that had to be done in a hospital, and propagil or whatever you call it has to be given in a hospital. So I'm trying to, I have a friend that used to write for her, and I try to keep in touch with that because that's, it's just one more thing that he's done because somebody pissed him off.
Yeah, well,
as far as I'm concerned,
Michelle or Tranny.
Right.
So,
that's the Joan Rivers.
Right.
1,000 facial operations and Botox, and she walks out there. She calls a tranny a tranny, and she's dead in 3 months.
Right. Now, I don't think it was even 3 months. I think it was less than that.
I think so too. 3 weeks.
Really quick. Yeah. Right.
I don't think that's a coincidence.
No, and that's why I'm trying to keep in touch with people, see exactly what they find out.
Hey, Tori, before you go, tell people how they can find you. Tell them about your blog.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I try to. I'm in California, so I try to keep under the radar.
I don't mean to find you physically. I meant like your blog.
I'm sitting in front of the window right now. Yeah. No, I like to write articles. I'd like to think that people learn from them. My biggest thing right now is how to get Americans to do something before our country is completely destroyed, and I don't know the answer to that. But they can find me on Examiner. On the articles that I write.
Yes, and that's
in my
Tori
spare
Nissen.
time. Yes.
All right, my dear. I want to thank you very, very, very much for coming on, and don't be a stranger
around. And thank you,
around
Joanne. This was fabulous. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. Without you, I wouldn't be on air. I told people earlier in the show. Yeah, you're the reason that I'm on here. You invited me on because of an article.
Right.
And here I be.
Exactly.
Here I be.
We back then we figured out the whole Gulf oil fiasco.
Yes, we did, and that was even then we knew we were in for a ride. We know when we said it was going to get ugly. I never imagined it would get this bad.
Right. Absolutely.
Never.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Tori, and I will talk to you on the other side.
Okay. Sounds good. Have a great night.
All right, honey. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Tori Nissen.
Bye-bye, Scott and Joanne. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, hon. All right, Scott, you have any closing comments?
No, that's it.
That's it, huh? All right, well, get us a song ready, and I'll just say bye to everybody. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for today, and we really hope you enjoyed our show.